first Lone Wolf books, Lupo Solitario, appeared in Italy in 1984. I wrote the first book, Flight from the Dark, in 1983, but I created the world in 1976. So the world, I began developing the maps and the background stories and the characters about 6 or 7 years before I started the game book series. And originally my idea was to bring the world of Magnamon, Lone Wolf's world, to market as a game, as a role-playing game. But then I realised that two things. One, there are more bookshops in the world than there are game shops, so it's likely to be more successful as a book. But I also saw an opportunity to do something that hadn't been done before, and that was to bring a solo campaign to the public. A series where you're not only the hero, but you one book carries on to the next, and it tells you an evolving story, a life story. And I think that was a real key to its success. The fact that initially the fans loved the start of the story and wanted to know more, but those that came in perhaps in book 4 or book 5 went back to book 1 to find out what happened at the beginning of the story, and so it kept the whole series alive, and kept the back catalogue alive. I don't think anybody could imagine how big the success was. I was confident that it would work well, and I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right product, and that obviously makes a huge difference. So there I was in London at a time when, early 80s, where British publishers were looking for good quality science fantasy aimed at the teenage market. I had a good track record. I just won the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons World Championships in 1982, so they had somebody that had something special about them that they could do. I could write a bit. Pretty good at English. That helped. A consistent story. But what really impressed was the amount of work I'd done behind the scenes. I had 6 or 7 years' work on the world and the creation and the characters, and that kind of shone through. The publishers could see that this was a serious body of work, and so in my experience it was very different to most authors. Very often when you speak to authors, they spent 10 years of getting rejection letters and trying hard to get accepted, and then finally got their break. For me it was quite the opposite. I did 3 presentations to the major publishers in London, and they all wanted it right from the start. So I was in a very enviable position where I had big publishers outbidding each other for this series, and I thought, my gosh, this is fantastic, And I had what I fondly remember as what I called Crazy Friday. There was a Friday in the sort of latter part of 1983 where every half an hour the phone was ringing and it was another publisher, and it said, well, we can manage another X thousands, we can probably go to this. And I thought, well, I'll think about it, give me a call back in an hour, and then the next one would phone, and it started very low, and at the end of the day it was very high. So I thought, oh, what a great start this is. So that's my story of how I got the thing published. Amazing. Well, there's been several attempts to bring Lone Wolf to video over the years, but this latest one I think has finally got it right. I mean, this is how I envisaged the hero right from the start. There's a kind of a dark look to it. I mean, back 20 years ago I still had this as envisaged the character. Parallel, I suppose it's a bit like the Batman Returns character. When you think of the original Batman, it was quite a soft character. It was quite a regular hero, but then suddenly it went very dark. But the character himself within is still a paragon of virtue. He's still a solid good guy. That's what Lone Wolf is. He's basically a very good guy, but with a very kick-ass look to him. Okay, and that's exactly what I want, because as we found at the show, a lot of people that haven't seen or heard of Lone Wolf before are coming around this corner and they're stopping and going, wow, that looks pretty good. I want to find out more about this guy. This is good. And when they kind of ask that question and then look into what's established, they think, my God, there's 30 years of established history. There's a whole 15,000 years of documented history about the story. Suddenly it's not just a new character on the scene, it's something with a lot of depth to it. So I think that's where we'll score big here. The other important thing is that the video game tells the untold story. There is an untold story that fits into the timeline that already exists, and it slots in between book 4 and book 5 in the existing series. So the established fans will be very happy to know that there is this new aspect to the existing story, and it's completely correct with what's already been established in Lone Wolf mythos. and then the new people to this whole thing, to this venture, are going to discover all of that backstory that already exists. This is the first step into a very detailed world. So hopefully we'll get both sides on our side as a consequence of that. The mechanic in the book won't translate into the video game, which is why we're doing a wholly new approach that's appropriate for the video game. So the video game is going to be more action orientated. Like I said, we're telling an untold story, so we're not retelling something that's already been told. It's going to be a new story. That gives us the freedom to really make the most of the medium. So we're going to have an action adventure video game that is probably more combat orientated than the game books are. Okay, what's new about it is it's going to be a traditional combat, third-person combat game, but it has psionic elements to it. So there's mind combat going on, and then there are the Kai disciplines, the special skills of the character, which open up other opportunities for combat. So it could be 3 streams of combat happening at the same time. We've not seen that in any other game. Time will tell over the coming months when you see the pre-production releases of the combat sequence. You'll see what we have in mind. But we're confident that we've got something unique in the combat arena. So we want to promote that, because that's the unique point about this game. And it's not what you would have thought, what you initially thought. It's not just a retelling of an existing book. It's going to be devoted to the video game medium to get the most out of it. That's our approach. I'm completing the series, which is 32 books long, and I'm writing books 31 and 32. 30 years on, lots of 30s in this, but it's incredible. I started this 1983, and here I am, 2011, 2012, finally finishing the story. There's the existing traditional role-playing game. There's an intermediate series called the Lone Wolf Multimedia Game Series. There's a lot of material that's being produced for that, and guys I'm co-writing and stuff I'm originating wholly myself. And then there's the everyday work that takes several hours to go through, from just keeping on top of this world I've created. So you're going to see. You're going to see various streams. Also, Reply Forge, the company behind this, have TV animation, they have comic book divisions, they have merchandising and marketing sections. So it's not just a promotion of a video game, it's really re-establishing the brand very strongly and producing other stuff, other material that's going to support the video game very strongly as well. I mean, I'm really looking forward to producing the comic books that they're going to produce, and TV animation. Well, that's just one step away from a film, and ultimately I guess that's where we want to be with this. Because it was a 4-book series. It was a 4-book story. It was a really, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do. I wrote it in the break between book 12 and book 13, which in Lone Wolf is a big break in the series. It's the end of the intermediate Magna Kai series and the start of the Grand Master series. So there's a Lone Wolf achieves something pretty big at the end of book 12. Then he kind of restarts the order, and and everything ramps up to a higher level of challenge. So I had a year in between that. I think it was 1988 or 87 or 88 that I wrote Freeway Warrior. Freeway Warrior is a story that had been rattling around in my mind for a long time, and one I wanted to tell. And to condense it, it's basically Mad Max meets Grapes of Wrath. All right, it's an Exodus story post-apocalypse. I drove the route from Dallas to San Diego, and I photographed that road trip that I made, and that formed the basis for the story. There's a few things I wanted to experiment with: post-apocalypse, modern weaponry, introduce romance into the story. A few things that I couldn't do with Lone Wolf, so it's kind of an experiment. And as you pointed out, it's fondly remembered by those people that read the series, because it was very different. Same design structure as Lone Wolf, but a different approach, different characters. I think it worked really well. I think it worked very well. Particularly book 3. Everybody's The Amiga Zone Book 3 was a big favourite.
This is the book
that's the one. Yes, isn't it? Just
I found it always that book.
People said that that was so exciting because you've got a real high level assassin on your tail, and everybody you know is getting picked off, and you're like, it's narrowing in on you the whole book. Everybody I've read said I read that all in one sitting. I just couldn't put it down, and I kind of know why, because it was a very intense book. But yeah, book 3 of that series really stood out, and had a lot of fun. For me, that's probably the quickest book I wrote, because the reverse was true. I was so absorbed in the story, I just wanted to keep writing it and getting it done. So I think I wrote the whole book in about 11 days.
Wow.
Which is wow, because it's 350 pages.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to put it down. I was so absorbed as well. And I'm absolutely delighted that translated into the reader's experience. People got really into it as well, because it was the story was very intense.
Yeah.
So Freeway Warrior, good memories of that.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you.